And the recording is running. Welcome everyone to the start of today's webinar titled Orientation to the Advanced Technological Education Program, the Conference for New Attendees, coming up in October. We're certainly looking forward to that conference. I'm your host for today's webinar, Mike Lasecki. I'm headquartered here at the Maricopa Community Colleges in Phoenix, Arizona. Let me introduce you to the system that we're using. Some of you have used Adobe Connect before. Others may not have had that opportunity. So this is what you'll see on the main screen. You already see it now, of course. We're going to be doing some polls today. These polls, I'll actually reposition them on the screen as they come up, but you just click the radio buttons and we'll actually see your live responses to the questions. I'll remind you of that as we get closer. You can see all of the participants that have logged in today, and in fact, you might know some of them. Feel free to use your mouse button, click on them, and if you like, send them a private message. Be aware that moderators see all of the messaging. In the chat box is where you'll have an opportunity to ask questions that you might have. How to get to the White House? That's the question I always ask. I'm just kidding about that. But please, use the chat window to ask any question that you have, and I'll moderate those questions and send them to our attendees, to our participants. Okay. I'm not going to do that today. Let me introduce our presenters. First joining us is Elaine Kraft. She's the director of the South Carolina ATE Center of Excellence. That center has been funded for a number of years and acts as a resource center in many different ways. She's also the PI of the Mentor Connect project headquartered in South Carolina. Then joining us is Ellen House. She's the director at the American Association for Community Colleges. Her title is Director, Academic and Student Affairs. Ellen is involved with this conference for many, many years and helps make sure that everything goes smoothly in Washington. She's also co-PI with Elaine at the Mentor Connect project. And finally, joining us is Ken, the ATE project coordinator at the American Association for Community Colleges in Washington, D.C. Thank you all presenters for joining us very much. I'm going to turn the presentation now, and let's begin to Ellen. Go ahead, Ellen.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all for joining us today. It's our hope that this webinar will help to orient you to the ATE conference, help you learn about the meeting and how to maximize your time at the event, and offer the opportunity to answer any questions you may have. So I wanted to begin by just going over what we'll cover on the webinar. We've broken this down into the following sections, and we'll be breaking after each section to address your questions. So we'll be providing a general conference overview, looking at registration, hotel, and travel. We'll talk about the conference content, types of sessions offered, and the general flow. We'll go over some ways to participate in the conference with detailed information on the showcase sessions. We'll give you some tips on identifying and connecting with your program director at the event. We'll provide an overview of student participation and student events at the conference, and we'll go over some commonly asked conference questions. And with that, we'll move into the overview, the what, where, when, who, and why attend. And I'd like to start with a poll, and I'll ask Mike to launch it, but we'd like to know how many of you have previously attended an ATE-PI conference. And if this is your first time or your second time or even more. I know there's a few people that are veterans for a few years or more. So if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to vote so we can get a sense of who's in our audience. Okay, great. So it looks like the majority of you are, in fact, new to the ATE conference. It's the first time, and this is the focus of this webinar is for you, though we certainly welcome our veterans. And for those of you that have been before, if you'd like to contribute any thoughts or comments in the chat box as we go along to help orient everyone to the ATE conference, we'd appreciate it. Okay, Mike, I think we can close the poll. And I will go to my next slide. So the what is it? So this is the National Advanced Technological Education Principals Investigators Conference. And since that is a long and wordy title, you'll see it referred to as the ATE-PI Conference or the ATE Conference for short. It is a national professional development and networking event, and it is for ATE grantees and their project partners. And this event is co-sponsored by the National Science Foundation and the American Association of Community Colleges, and it's primarily funded through a grant to AACC from NSF. And for those of you who may not be familiar with AACC, I'll briefly tell you we're the primary advocacy organization for the nation's community colleges. We promote community colleges through 5 action areas: recognition and advocacy, student access, learning and success, community college leadership, economic and workforce development, and global and intercultural education. And AACC has had a long-standing partnership with NSF, and we've been hosting the annual conference for the past 21 years. That was before my time, but I will say I believe that first meeting was about 60 to 70 people, and now we are well over 800. So where is the conference and when is it? So it's held at the Omni Shoreham Hotel in Washington, D.C., and this is actually a picture of the Omni Shoreham on the screen. It's typically held toward the end of October, and this year's event, as you know, is October 21 through 23. Hopefully you're familiar with the screenshot here. This is our registration brochure. So we'll be covering some of the information in this brochure, just to go into a little bit more detail and to help answer and address any questions. And I also just wanted to point out the conference URL here. We'll be updating this site with information on the conference agenda in the coming weeks. We're finalizing the program now, and I'll be sending out a link when that is updated and the program's available. But that's where the most current information about the conference can be found. So who attends? The conference is attended, as I said, by about 800, 850 people. Participants include ATE projects and center PIs, co-PIs, and their grant partners representing business, industry, secondary schools, and four-year institutions. And NSF program directors and AACC staff attend, and we also invite selected guests representing the federal government and STEM-related nonprofits and associations. A lot of them based locally in D.C. come to attend as well. And in addition, the conference includes opportunities for approximately 50 students to attend, and we'll go over that a little later in the webinar. Now I'd like to turn it over to Elaine to talk to you a little bit about why you should attend this event.
Thanks, Ellen. Perhaps the most compelling reason to attend the ATEPI conference is that NSF expects you to be there. Even so, it is one of the nicest perks to come with being an ATE grantee. It is a privilege to be invited. The conference helps anyone and everyone associated with your project, as well as college administrators, to better understand your ATE project, the context of overall ATE program, and its national impact on technician education. The conference provides a unique type of professional development not likely to be found anywhere else, especially the learning that results from peer sharing in the context of being an ATE grantee. You will learn things at the conference that will help you in your work today and in the future. You will be surrounded by people who are extremely interested in your work, fellow ATE grantees who understand both the joys and the challenges of being an innovator in technician education. Next, I'm going to turn you over to Ken, who will talk to you about registration, hotel, and travel.
Thank you, Elaine. The ATE PI conference requires each individual to register for the conference. In this section, I will go over registration, hotel reservations, and travel arrangements. More detailed information can be found on the ATE website or in the PI registration packet. AACC receives a list of active grant awards from NSF. Upon receipt of this list, AACC sends an electronic notification as well as printed materials to the respective project and/or center PI. Please note that communication regarding the conference only goes to the PI, so it's important for the PI to then share this information with their team members who are planning to attend the conference. All registration materials can be found online on our website as well. You can register by using our online portal or by faxing the registration form to the contact number provided in the registration packet. To register, you must have your grant number. This is used as a registration code that is initially requested when using the online portal. The number of attendees a project and/or center can bring to the conference is designated by NSF and AACC. A certain number of slots are allotted for each project and/or center, with the goal of keeping attendance at a manageable size to promote networking and information sharing among the ATE community. The chart on the screen breaks down what registration costs are covered by AACC and what should be covered by your grant. Each project will receive 2 complimentary registrations along with lodging for 2 nights. Projects can also bring up to 3 additional people and cover their lodging and registration fees. Centers also receive 2 complimentary registrations along with lodging for 2 nights. Centers can bring up to an additional 5 people and cover their lodging and registration fees. The project and/or center teams are responsible for assigning who on their team will receive the complimentary registrations. For those who do not receive complimentary registrations, there is a registration fee of $300 per person. As part of the conference, we also offer pre-conference workshops that are an additional $50 per workshop. Everyone attending a workshop is required to pay the $50 fee, including those who receive complimentary registrations. Please note that you can use your ATE grant funds to pay registration and pre-conference workshop fees. All individuals are responsible for making their own hotel reservations. This also includes those who receive complimentary registrations and lodging. You can make your reservation online or by contacting the hotel directly. Please note that to ensure you receive the group rate, you will need to reference the AACC ATE conference. You will also be asked to provide a credit card to guarantee your room. AACC will cover room and tax for 2 nights for those individuals who receive complimentary registration. For those who will be paying for lodging, the rate is $249 per night plus tax. This is for a single or double room. For anyone that would like to stay additional nights, the room rate is the same. However, you will be responsible for covering the expenses for the additional room nights. The Omni extends the group rate based on availability up to 3 days before and 3 days after the conference dates. Please note when making reservations, rooms are not automatically put on the master account. AACC assigns rooms to the master account after the hotel reservation cutoff date of September 24th. Upon check-in, ask the front desk if your room reservation has been assigned to be charged to the AACC master account. If the hotel does not have your hotel billing correct, please report it to the ATE conference registration desk so we can correct it on site. Another important note is that all attendees are responsible for arranging and paying for their own travel expenses. AACC provides airport and ground transportation information on our conference website, which can be found under the Hotel and Travel tab. When arranging for travel, don't forget to factor in travel expenses such as parking, airport transfers, and meals not offered by the conference. For your reference, the conference provides the following meals: an evening reception on Wednesday night and a continental breakfast and lunch on Thursday and Friday. It is permissible for you to pay travel costs to the conference out of your ATE grant funds. If you are a new grantee and did not have money budgeted towards the ATE PI conference travel, you can move money from another budget category to cover conference travel. However, do not move participant support costs without seeking NSF approval first. If you are in doubt about using grant funds to pay for ATE conference travel, please contact your NSF ATE program officer. Okay, so a frequent question we get is, I have a new project. How many people can I bring to the conference? Let's take a moment and by using the polling functions, try to answer the question above. How many do you think? We'll take a moment. Okay, looks like a lot of people are guessing 2 and jumped up to 5. Okay, and yes, 5 would be the correct answer. A new project grant can bring up to 5 people maximum to the conference. Thank you, Mike. We can close the poll now. Okay, now let's just dig a little bit deeper. Of the 5, how many do you think are complimentary? Again, let's take a moment and by using the polling functions, answer the question. Oh, seems like everybody is in agreement of 2, which is the correct answer. 2 out of the 5 are complimentary. Thank you again, Mike. We can close the poll. So I'm now going to pass the slide deck back to Elaine to go over navigating the conference. But before I do, let me take a moment and ask if there are any questions about registration, hotel, or travel at this time.
Ken, it's Mike. There was a question that was answered in the chat window, and I think the answer is pretty clear there. If the hotel doesn't know about it, you want to settle that at the check-in stage. I liked your suggestion of coming up to the conference registration desk. When is that desk open? What are the hours for the registration desk? That was one of the questions.
The registration desk will be open conference hours, but we'll be there early on site. So I'd say you can report to the registration desk around 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
Okay,
We'll be open.
that's good. The second question, Ken, I don't know if you know this answer. When you make your reservation with a credit card, one of the participants asked, do they charge the first night to your card? Do you know that?
No, they're not going to charge the first night. That's a great question. They're not going to charge the first night, but they probably will assess a holding fee, no more than $50, and that will be credited back to the respective card that is used upon checkout.
Okay. Now there's another question. I might turn this over to Ellen. I see you've already answered it there in the chat window. Ellen, why don't you just come on and elaborate on this? A PI should register and not pay is the question mark. Ellen, go ahead.
Correct. So, well, a PI can actually assign the complimentary registrations to whomever he or she would like on their team. So you have two complimentary registrations. If the PI wants to take one of the comp registrations, when you go online to register, you would just select comp. You would have an option of a comp or paid registration. So if you select comp, then you will not be charged. And what the system will do is once you've used your two complimentary registrations, if the third person comes in to register, it'll only show a paid option that can be selected.
Okay, that's perfect. Colleagues online, if you have other questions as we go forward, just go ahead and put them in the chat window. Why don't we go forward into the next slide and ask Elaine to come back and tell us about navigating the conference.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Let's start with the opportunity to register for a pre-conference workshop. The pre-conference workshops provided by the ATEPI conference are not as optional as they may seem. If you are a new ATE grantee, you absolutely should register for and attend the Getting Started pre-conference workshop. The focus of this workshop is on what you need to know to properly administer an NSF grant. For example, at this workshop, you will find out when your first report is due to NSF. The date is sooner than you expect, and it may shock you. Dr. David Campbell, an NSF program officer, and others will be sharing extremely important information like this that all grantees, but especially new grantees, really need to know. This is also an excellent pre-conference session for an administrator who is attending the conference with you. Administrators can help you communicate important information to your college business office, where most of the burden of compliance with the federal regulations fall. Of course, the fact that your grant creates extra work for the business office explains why your business office may not be nearly as excited about your award as you are. Other pre-conference workshops also provide in-depth opportunity to learn and improve your knowledge and skills as a principal investigator. If you attend the ATEPI conference with a team, and you should, divide up your team and participate in as many pre-conference workshops as possible. You may use your grant funds to pay the additional $50 registration fee that is required for each of these pre-conference workshop sessions. The deadline to register is September 24th, so don't hesitate. The central message here is come early and stay late. You will not want to miss a single minute of the conference. I want to stress again the importance of attending as a team and then dividing up your team when attending sessions to maximize learning and the networking opportunities. Expect to be very, very busy the entire time. So if you want to tour Washington, D.C., and Mike, if you want to go to the White House like you keep talking about, you need to plan to arrive a day early or stay a day late. This conference is one that keeps you busy morning, noon, and night. There will be keynote addresses, mini sessions, and different types of sessions to choose from, in addition to the 3 separate exhibit showcases that everyone should attend. Showcases allow you to be enlightened and inspired by the work of other ATE grantees. More details about programming for the conference will be provided later in the webinar. So next, let's go to Ellen.
Thank you, Elaine. I just wanted to talk a little bit further on the pre-conference workshops and see if any of you have perused the options for this year. So on this slide, 3 of the workshops are in fact workshops that are being offered for this year's event, and 2 of them listed are from prior years. And so we're going to just familiarize you with the chat box, and I'm going to say select one by letter that you think is being offered this year and go ahead and enter it into the chat box, either A, B, C, D, or E. So I see some people are selecting A and B, and both of those are correct. We made this really simple. It's A, B, or C. It's actually are all offered. The Getting Started workshop, which Elaine stressed the importance of attending, that is actually offered every year for new grantees. We're also offering this year Managing Grant Finances. And I will say that that is actually geared for projects that are in their 2nd or even 3rd year of funding. So that's not targeted to new grantees. We do talk a little bit about grant finances and budgets, and there are people that come in from that division of NSF to address those issues in the Getting Started workshop as well. So don't feel like you have to try to be split between those 2 workshops. The Getting Started workshop as new grantees is where you need to be. If you do have teams that you'd like to split up, certainly look at Thrive in the New Melting Pot, re-energizing your recruitment and retention efforts. And then the other 2 workshops being offered this year are methods of evidence-based learning practices. So we're looking at things like undergraduate research, problem case-based learning, practices that have been proven to really help retain students and make them into completers. And also, we're offering a workshop on midlife project evaluation. So again, the evaluation workshop and the financial workshop are focused towards more mature grantees, and there'll be an evaluation piece in the Getting Started workshop for new grantees. So it's the longest of the workshops. All the workshops are 3 hours, with the exception of Getting Started is 4, because we really give a lot of information from a lot of different sections that you'll need to know about in that workshop. Okay, I'd like to also go over some of the other conference content so you can get a little bit of knowledge about what to expect. So the conference offers 3 plenary sessions. We kick off Wednesday evening after the pre-conference sessions with an opening plenary. We have one on Thursday morning, and we have one as well on Friday morning. And on Wednesday evening, we kick off with a lot of introductions from NSF and AACC leadership, and we feature a keynote speaker. On the slide are some speakers that we had from last year. Here is journalist Esther Cepeda. She's a nationally syndicated columnist with the Washington Post Writers Group, and she spoke to our group about how to tell your story. Over here is Mark Mitsui, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Community Colleges with the U.S. Department of Education, and he provided an update on DOE activities that are relevant to community colleges in STEM. And then our closing keynote speaker was Shonda Brown, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Manufacturing with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and she was speaking on how to ensure our nation's competitiveness by growing STEM leaders. Just give you a few other examples, give you a little flavor of some of the keynote speakers in the past. In 2013, we celebrated 20 years of the ATE program, so you're joining a long and strong community within ATE that welcomes you and encourages you to network and leverage what's been done. Featured here was Representative David Price, who was very instrumental in helping to get the legislation that started the AT program back in the early 90s. Our keynote speaker, Rick Stevens, who is a retired vice president with Boeing Corporation. And then we have NSF program directors David Campbell, Celeste Carter, NSF Assistant Director for Directorate for Education, Joan Farini-Mundi, and then the then acting director, Cora Merritt. Some other examples of speakers, Hillary Mason, Chief Scientist with Bitly, who talked about opportunities in social data. Kumar Garg, Senior Advisor, Office of Science and Technology Policy with the White House. I'll just turn off that pointer. And Dr. Freeman Dabrowski, President of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, speaking about how to really serve underrepresented students in STEM. And then here's Mayra Gun, host of Tech Nation with National Public Radio, facilitating a panel of industry employers sitting alongside their employees who were recent ATE program graduates. This was at the 2013 conference. And this is something we like to do if, maybe every other year. We host a panel of students. And this year, we will actually be doing something a little bit new on Thursday morning. And as a way of illustrating the conference theme, which is really focused on innovation, creativity, and practice, we're going to highlight a successful ATE project that's having a national impact with a proven teaching and learning tool. And this project's focused on STEM guitar building. So we'll be featuring a panel of faculty sitting with their students from people instituting this method across the U.S. And Donald McCoy, who's a former IBM executive and STEM mentor, will be facilitating this session, and we'll be talking about student impact of this teaching tool and how it can translate across several STEM disciplines. So we're hoping, and we'll have an opportunity for discussion with the students as well, so we're hoping for a very interactive session. I'll take a brief moment and announce our other two plenary speakers. Our opening speaker is Dr. Anissa Ramirez. She is a co-author of Newton's Football, The Science Behind America's Game, and authored Save Our Science, How to Inspire a New Generation of Scientists. If you're familiar with TED Talks, she's given a TED Talk around that issue. Prior to that, she was the Associate Professor of Mechanical Engineering and Material Science at Yale, and Technology Review named her one of the world's top 100 young innovators. She'll be giving a talk meant to inspire on Make, Do, Build, Why the World Needs STEM Learners. So we're excited to hear from her on that. And we also try to include someone from industry in our plenary session. So our closing speaker, Andre Thornton, is a Senior Manager for Technical Leadership Programs in STEM at Lockheed Martin. And he'll be talking to us about the importance of preparing students with workplace, entrepreneurial, and leadership skills and the role community colleges can play in helping to build a diverse workforce. So we are excited about our slate of speakers and hope you will be too. I want to talk a little bit more about the rest of the conference programming. So we have our pre-conference workshops on Wednesday, our opening plenary Wednesday evening, which is followed by our showcases and reception, which we'll talk about shortly. And on Thursday morning, we have 4 concurrent sessions. And these include more formal presentations or panel discussions around a series of topics that pertain to the conference theme. So this year we have 4 sessions. One is focused on pathways in ATE. So we'll be profiling the path of someone with a new grant, a new project grant, to getting a second project grant, a transition from a project to a center grant, and then a transition from a project who's leveraging their ATE grant funding with outside funding sources, either from another federal or state agency. And that session will be led by David Brown, who's a former NSF ATE program director who just recently retired, and I'm pulling him right back in because he's a wealth of information and can share strategies there as well. We'll also be doing a session on supporting student success in STEM, strategies that work, focused on strategies to enhance efforts in recruitment, retention, and persistence of underrepresented students. We'll be taking that workshop we did on pre-conference workshop we did on methods of evidence-based learning practices and modifying it for a panel session on Thursday morning, since this is really at the heart of our conference theme this year, so we can garner more attendees, and so they'll be doing more of an overview or a higher level. It won't be the same as the workshop, but it'll be on the same topic. And then we have a session focused on methods for curriculum and material sharing, where we'll cover topics such as universal design for learning, ADA compliance, Creative Commons, and intellectual property. So it's just giving you a preview of the conference program, since that's not even up on the website yet. Another thing we do each Thursday and Friday morning are breakfast roundtables, and these are a forum for interactive discussion among a small group of up to 10 people seated around one roundtable. These discussion sessions are led by ATE attendees, and they're designed as informal information sharing systems. You don't need to sign up for a roundtable. They'll all be listed in the conference program by table number, and so you would just find the table number and hopefully grab some breakfast and sit down. We typically have 20 to 25 breakfast roundtables each morning to join with topics like interactive digital technology for technician education or how do you partner with industry. So we have various topics across the board. And then we get to the Thursday afternoon where, as Elaine mentioned, you're really going to want to divide your team if you have time because we break out into, I have 14 different sessions you could go to in one time slot because they're meant to be smaller and focused. So, they seat about 30 to 40 participants. So we really kind of, break it down across the board. There are panel sessions, workshop sessions that provide additional venues for formal presentation. We have birds of a feather discussion sessions, which offer more interactive venue for attendees to share promising practices and lessons learned and to explore ways to collaborate. And new this year, we're offering demonstration sessions. And so these are 30-minute formal presentations that show how to use or apply a pedagogical tool or concept. And presenters will walk attendees through a step-by-step explanation of the tool and talk about how it can be applied or implemented. We had a great response to that type of session from through our call for sessions. A lot of people very interested in giving them, so be interested to see how the community and the attendees respond to this type of programming. And now we get to, I guess, to the heart of the conference is the showcase sessions. So the showcase sessions provide grantees an opportunity to exhibit their projects and share information with other programs, NSF, and with guests at the conference. Showcases are consistently rated very, very high on our evaluation forms, and in 85% of 2015 ATE conference attendees that responded to our survey rated it as the most valuable conference activity. So here's a kind of an example, a few pictures of the showcase sessions. So AT projects and centers, they present displays that capture the purposes and products of their programs. There are actually 3 showcases that occur over the course of the event. The first on Wednesday evening is the ATE Centers that showcase. And then we have a showcase on Thursday and Friday of ATE projects, and ATE students also participate in those project showcases, and Ken will talk a little bit about that shortly. So here are a couple photos of booth displays, and so you can get an idea of how it looks. And the showcase sessions, they don't run like a standard exhibit hall. There are no vendors. So this is all of your colleagues. This is all the ATE projects and centers that are sharing their materials and very, very happy to talk with you and explore areas to collaborate. So again, these sessions are designed to promote networking and information sharing. They're the longest sessions. So you have 2 hours and 15 minutes at these to really roam around, talk to people. And we also strategically put food there, and I know Elaine will talk about the food here too. And actually, it's a good segue. I'm going to turn it over to Elaine to talk to you a little bit more about maximizing these showcase opportunities.
Yeah. Thank you, Ellen. Approximately 250 AT awards are active at any time. This means, of course, that there will be more information being shared at the conference than you can possibly absorb. The conference program can help you prioritize your activities and your time. The showcase abstracts will enable you to identify projects or centers whose work is of greatest interest to you. So on the screen here, you can't read the fine print, but in your program will be the showcase abstracts, and you'll be able to access this on the web prior to the conference as well. And you can check the day and the time, and then you can read the abstracts and determine what topics may be of most interest to you. It's great to find people who are doing work in your own area, but then there's a great opportunity here for cross-fertilization. If you want to shop for new ideas beyond your discipline, some of the most energizing partnerships and innovative work come from cross-discipline collaborations. So keep an open mind, behave like a sponge, and just soak it all in. All ATE centers will be showcased on Wednesday night, as Ellen mentioned. Then on Thursday and Friday, the ATE projects will be showcased along with student exhibits. In addition, at all 3 showcases, you will find several special exhibits that feature program-wide services. Examples include the NSF exhibit, the Evaluate exhibit that focuses on providing support for project evaluation, and the Mentor Connect exhibit, a project that provides mentoring and technical support for ATE grantees and potential grantees. During the exhibits, you will be inspired by the work of other grantees, and you are likely to find the help and partners you need to make your project dreams come true. The showcase sessions provide an amazing opportunity to meet people and share ideas. The atmosphere is very social. That may be one reason, Ellen, it gets such high ratings. Most effective exhibits showcase what people have accomplished and learned. Keep in mind when preparing an exhibit for your project that two things will be of greatest interest to others: outcomes and materials and resources that you can share to help others be successful. What have you done that worked? How can others adapt and implement your strategies, tools, or models? Because your award is new, it is probably too soon for you to know the outcomes of your work. You may not yet have materials or resources developed that you can share. For this reason, new grantees are not expected to exhibit at their first conference, but you can if you really want to. At this stage in your new project, it may be best to use your first conference experience as a time to look, listen, and learn. Notice the sizes of the exhibits, the styles and features of various exhibits. What appeals to you? What can model your exhibit on the designs that you think will work best for showcasing your work next year? In preparing to exhibit for the first time, you will want to purchase an exhibit that is specific to your project. Using a display that was designed specifically to advertise your college is probably not the way to go. While it is okay to recognize your college and your partner institutions, in fact you should, your exhibit for the ATEPI conference should focus clearly on your project, and the NSF logo needs to be prominent in your ATE display materials so that you can use them elsewhere with proper attribution. Now to the yummy part. The food functions associated with the exhibits are located adjacent to the exhibits, and they're always a treat. Ellen and her team just do a terrific job keeping us well fed while we're there. This arrangement provides great opportunities for not only exploring the exhibits, but also for gathering around a table with new friends and colleagues to pursue common interests. For many of us, the ATEPI conference feels much like a family reunion for the ATE community. At this point, let's take a short break and answer any questions you may have. Mike?
Elaine, we do have a couple of questions. I like your comment about being a sponge. That's a good one. I like that because it's true. There's so much going on there, you can hardly accommodate it all. There is a question that came in. If you're bringing handouts, or giveaways, how many do you think you should bring? Does anyone? I'll turn to you first, Elaine. Do you have an idea? How many would you bring? 100, 150? What's about the right number? I don't want to bring 800.
Well, that's true, Mike. You don't need 800, even though there are 800 participants. Typically, teams will want maybe one copy of something per team. One thing to keep in mind is that a large majority of people who come to this conference are flying to the conference, which means that they're going to have very limited baggage space for taking things home. And so small items that don't take up a lot of space will be better than big bulky items, or heavy books or samples that you may want to share. And in terms of the number, that's really it really depends on the nature of the item. If it is a detailed brochure or something on your project that somebody might be able to pick up the information off the web, you may not need more than, say 100 copies. But if it's something small, like some project information or models on a flash drive they can take with them, then you might want to be prepared with as many as 150 or 200 to share with your colleagues.
That seems about right. That seems about the right number from what I've seen in the past. That's good. Thanks, Elaine. A question for you, Ellen. As I look at those pictures, I seem to recall that the ceiling height is very low in that room. What if you've got lights on top of your exhibit? Are they going to fit? What should we worry about there?
We'll actually talk a little bit about dimensions shortly, but yes, the ceiling, as you can see, I think it was in the slide right before.
Oh yeah,
rather low ceiling. So
Yeah.
you might not want to post lights, at the top of your booth. You don't have a lot of vertical space.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. Last question, I'll go back to you, Elaine, and then we'll move on. Um, I think people wonder, they see this thing starting at 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening. They're thinking, well, maybe I could get in late and miss the opening session. But I seem to recall that opening session followed by the showcase is critical. We should encourage people to make it for that opening, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And of course, if they follow our advice and come to a
Oh,
pre-conference
yeah.
workshop, they
Right.
will already be there.
Right.
And it's very fast-paced. You just finish up one thing and go straight to another. But if you can arrange flights and travel schedules to get in early, you want to be there by noon on Wednesday for a pre-conference session, and you want to be there, certainly by 6 o'clock for the opening session. That room will be full, and if you want a good seat, you show up early.
Okay, that makes sense. We're good. Folks, keep your questions coming into the chat window. Let's move forward now and turn back to you, Ellen, to tell us about maximizing your engagement.
Thanks, Mike. And before I start, I just wanted to add to what Elaine said about the opening session. NSF does some introductory material, but in that there's usually some announcements or some program opportunities. So you don't want to miss what NSF has to say either, since it's the three plenary sessions are the main place where everyone is together in one place. So it's just another plug for getting there early. I'd like to talk about, in this section, going over a little bit about maximizing your engagement in the conference. So we'll talk about the call for sessions. We'll go into the showcase sessions. You've heard about how to attend them and what to expect from them going through from a networking standpoint. But if there are those of you that would like to present this year, or you want to get a jump on presenting for next year at the showcase sessions, we're going to talk to you a little bit about what that would entail. And then we'll talk about the ATE Conference Steering Committee. So the call for sessions, AACC issues a call for sessions where we invite proposals from projects and centers to conduct panels, birds of a feather discussion sessions, or as I mentioned, these new demonstration sessions and breakfast roundtables. So I mentioned this as a really good way to get involved in the conference. So the deadline for this year has passed. It was in the end of August, and we're in the process of getting everybody notified now who submitted sessions on what's going to be scheduled. But I ask you to strongly consider this for future years of the conference. And again, the showcase sessions. So we'll talk to you now if you'd like to go ahead and present this year or start thinking about next year. As Elaine said, going this year and taking a look at what might work for you in terms of a display is a really good strategy. So again, I'll stress new grantees are not expected nor required to showcase in their first year. But they can if they would like to. But as far as everyone else, there is an expectation that you will showcase. NSF, while they don't require it, I will just say there's a strong expectation that you showcase to disseminate information with your fellow ATE colleagues. And also it's a wonderful opportunity for NSF to see what you're doing because the program directors do come through the showcase sessions. So in terms of how these get scheduled, this is a map of the exhibit hall showing the layout for the showcase sessions. And AACC assigns all booth space. So basically you sign up online, you indicate if you have a preference of Thursday and Friday, and we schedule this for you. We want you to note that there's some exact dimensions that you're going to need to fit it within, and this is where I'll also reiterate that you want to consider the height of your display as the exhibit hall ceiling, as we talked about, is very low. And so all booths for the showcase sessions must be reserved prior to the conference. So again, you need to sign up ahead of time. And that deadline, if you'd like to showcase this year, is September 17th. So this is an example of a center booth. So AT centers are provided a carpeted 20 by 10 booth, 2 6 by 30 tables, and 2 chairs. And there's no expense to the grantee to do this. All you're responsible for is getting your materials there and getting them back. The booth is set. And this is an example of a project booth. So projects are also provided a carpeted booth. They have an 8 by 10 booth, 1 6 by 30 draped table, and 2 chairs. And in addition to providing the booth space, we also provide electricity. So that's offered at your booth space. And we can give a little bit of AV. So you have a selection. You can choose a DVD player and TV monitor. You can choose to have a flat screen monitor, or you can choose to have a projection screen. We don't provide laptops or data projectors or internet connections primarily due to costs. but that's something that you can order for yourself if you'd like to through the exhibitor kit. And I think Elaine will talk a little bit about that. So if you think you need more than what AACC is offering, there is an opportunity for you to obtain those materials to develop your display in the manner in which you choose. So again, the reservation deadline is September 17th, and you can access that through the website. And now I'd like to turn it over to Elaine to talk a little bit about what it really takes to kind of assemble these displays and materials and get them to and from the conference.
Okay, so participating in the ATE-PI Conference Showcase is an exciting way to share with others. But let me tell you, it is also a lot of work. Prior planning can help eliminate some of the frustration associated with this activity. Make sure that you have ordered and checked out all of your materials well in advance of the conference. Remember that everything takes longer than you think it should. Practice assembling your exhibit at your institution because setup can be tricky. And if you're missing parts, you want to find that out in time to do something about it, not after you get to the conference. If there are items or graphics to be placed directly on the display or arranged in front of a display after it is assembled, take photographs of your design during your practice run so that you can quickly duplicate the best design when you get to Washington. You will probably discover that it takes someone very tall to place lights at the top of your exhibit if you want to do that. As Ellen said, it's close, but we do have lights, and we've successfully installed them at the top of our exhibit in the past. It's just a close fit. So you may want to consider bringing at least one tall person to the conference as part of your team. I'm just joking. Sometimes you don't have a choice about that, but they do come in handy. Supplies, tools, ladders, and help are not likely to be available at the time you need to assemble your display. So think through everything in advance. Remember that you don't want to tape your boxes so tightly that you can't get them open without scissors, that you couldn't pack in your purse or your carry-on suitcase because they won't let you on the airplane with them. So think through all this and make sure that you're not going to get stranded with taped up boxes you can't get into once you get to the exhibit hall. Most exhibitors provide small giveaways to attract visitors and advertise their project or center. You want people to follow up with you after the conference. That's a big thing. That's part of our creating our ATE community, is that you reach out to other people after the conference and you start these new networks and new partnerships. For that reason, your primary giveaways should be personalized with your contact information and perhaps website URL. As you visit exhibits this year, notice what items people have chosen for this purpose. Think about what will work for your project. Some people choose items related to their discipline. Others attract people with candy, customized luggage tags, or other low-cost items. Keep in mind that most people fly to the conference, as I mentioned earlier, so they've got limited baggage space to take things home. Also, it is important to adhere to all applicable NSF and your own institutional procurement guidelines in providing this type of promotional item. The objective is to facilitate the spread of information about your project and make it easy for someone to connect with you after the conference. You will also notice at the conference that some project teams wear matching shirts or similar identifiers. You need to be aware that these clothing items cannot be purchased with grant funds. So if you want to have matching apparel, this expense will need to be covered by some other funding source or by the participating individuals. The nuts and bolts of getting your exhibit to the conference and back to your institution after the event can be grueling and expensive. It is prudent to figure out all costs in advance. As you make plans to purchase and ship your exhibit, you will have an excellent opportunity to make friends with your college purchasing as well as shipping and receiving departments. You will need their help more often than you realize. There is an exhibitor kit included in the conference registration packet that provides detailed information that you and your college will need to handle this task. Read the fine print. Let me repeat that. Read the fine print. This bears repeating. For example, do not attempt to ship the exhibit materials to yourself at the hotel. Ship your materials as instructed and well in advance of the conference. And don't forget to make arrangements for return shipping to your college at the conclusion of your showcase session. So essentially, you need a round-trip ticket for these things that go to the conference. These things do not magically happen. It is your responsibility to make the appropriate arrangements to get the financial approvals necessary from your college and payments made. All of these costs can be charged to your grant, but somebody has to be responsible for getting all of this put in place so that this can be done. Okay, Ellen, tell people about how this conference gets planned.
Thanks, Elaine. So this conference gets planned by a steering committee, and the steering committee consists of AACC staff, NSF program directors, and you, so representatives of ATE projects and centers. So the committee meets through monthly conference calls, typically from February through September. And steering committee members provide input into the conference agenda. They help to develop and moderate the sessions. And so if you're interested in serving on a conference steering committee for future AT conference planning, please let me know. Please let Ken know. We welcome people to conference planning. Or if you have any ideas you'd like to contribute, you know of a tremendous technology speaker you'd like us to consider for a plenary session, please send them our way. We welcome suggestions for speakers and for sessions, and we consult the conference evaluation survey that we distribute at the end of each conference for these suggestions as well. So we strongly encourage you to complete that survey following the event and provide us any suggestions for improvement or for things you'd like to see included at the conference. This conference is, essentially for the AT community by the ATE community, so we really want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. At this time, I think I'd like to turn it over if there are any questions.
Ellen, we do have one. You mentioned that there is no internet broad access in the exhibit hall unless you specifically arrange for it with the conference, so we understand that. But what about outside of the exhibit hall, let's say in the common areas or in the sessions themselves? Can I check my stock prices while I'm in one of the sessions?
Yes, Ken's actually going to cover that as well, but I'll just mention it here since it's asked. You have complimentary wireless in your sleeping rooms, so you'll get a card for that when you check into the hotel. And then this year, we've negotiated wireless access in the meeting rooms and the common areas. So check with the registration desk for that code.
Oh, good. That's really good.
Because it's just not in the hall, not in the exhibit hall, but in all the other meeting space. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's really good because you know how connected people are today, or I was joking, of course, about stock, but I think it's important to have that, so thanks for negotiating that for us.
Sure.
We're good at this point. I see you've answered several questions in the chat window. Thank you for doing that. Why don't we just go ahead and take us forward. I'm going to click to the next slide here. It's back to you to talk about your program officer.
Yes, and this is a commonly asked question. So we consistently receive queries on how grantees can identify and or connect with their program directors at the conference. So first of all, some people are not aware who their program director is, and if you do not know or you need assistance in identifying them, the Teaching Technicians website, which is listed here on the screen, has a section entitled Help for PIs, and they will give you step-by-step instructions on how to navigate NSF's website to drill down to that information and find the listing for your program director. And AACC also provides photos of NSF program directors in the conference program. And we ask them to stand at plenary sessions. Well, that may not be the most ideal way to identify them, but we make that attempt. And they also wear red ribbons under their name badges that say NSF, so you can look for those ribbons as well. In terms of connecting with your program officer at the event, the conference is attended by well over 800 attendees, and as your program officer typically manages several awards, to show up and just expect to run into them or know where they are is probably unrealistic. So you're going to want to reach out in advance, contact them and see if they're willing to set up a time to meet with you if that's something you're interested in doing. Or you can note that program officers are very, very likely to be in the showcase sessions. They do take this time to go in and check in not only with their grantees, but with what others are doing in the program. Here in the top left is Celeste Carter, and the bottom of the screen is Corby Hovis, both ATE program directors. And new this year, as I mentioned earlier, we are holding breakfast roundtables on Thursday and Friday morning. And we'll be designating 2 to 3 of those roundtables for NSF program directors to sit. So Celeste Carter, who leads the AT program, is confirming which of the program directors will be able to staff these roundtables. So you'll have an opportunity to possibly sit and talk with your program director at a breakfast roundtable as well. So look for the conference program at breakfast roundtables as soon as that's available to see if your program director is one of those that is staffing a roundtable. And NSF also has a booth in the hall, and while it's not manned the entire time because the program directors are roaming themselves, it is a point where you could set up a meet, and sometimes they do have sign-up sheets at the booth for those that are trying to meet with their program officer. But I think the best course of advice, if you really want to meet with them, is to reach out ahead of time and see if you can schedule it before you're on site. And I think since this was a section, we go back to a quick question break if anyone has a question concerning program directors.
There is the program directors are not there the entire time, are they? I seem to think that they're often there at the beginning, so you should try to grab them early rather than later in the conference. Is that true?
I think it depends on the program director.
Yeah.
A lot of them are there, very early, but there are some that do stay for the duration. But obviously, if you see them, I would seize that opportunity.
Okay. Oh, here's a question that came in. What if you can't locate your program director? Can you grab another one? Can you ask another one?
Sure. Elaine, did you want to address that?
Yes, Mike. You can speak with any program director, even if it's not the one officially assigned to your grant. You will find them all user-friendly. I have been in this program for 21 years, and I really, that has just been consistently true year in and year out. They're just user-friendly. They like you. They want to talk to you. They're interested in your work. Do be considerate of them, though, if particularly, even if it's your own program officer, but particularly if it's not, to tell them who you are, where you're from, what type of grant you have. Like, they'll be interested to know whether you've got a small grant for institutions new to AT, whether you have a project grant, whether you've got a center grant, what it is that, kind of the scope of work that you're doing, and then what the subject area you're working in. So you might say, I've got a project in biotech and I'm from San Francisco or something like that. That helps them put it in context because they do manage a very large portfolio of awards, and they can't be expected to recall all of the awards and what people are doing. So just give them a little initial context, but I think you will find them extremely user-friendly, as I said, and willing to talk with you and answer questions that you may have.
That's a good response. Elaine, do you know, a question has come into the chat window, if they have a schedule that's, posted by AACC? I don't think so. I think what would you suggest the best thing to do is contact them by email beforehand?
Yeah, you need to email them. There is no schedule, and
Right.
Quite frankly, there are so many people who want to talk to them at the conference that their time is really not their own.
Sure.
So, they may have good intentions of like being at the NSF exhibit, for instance, but they'll get pulled away. So familiarize yourself with the pictures and then look for those ribbons, and so you can kind of figure out how to identify a program officer in the crowd.
Good. Let's go ahead to the next slide and turn back to Ken and ask him to tell us about the student side of this conference.
Thank you, Mike. The ATE conference offers a great opportunity for students to attend. The conference is very beneficial to students, and for many, it is their first time traveling to DC, flying, and attending a professional conference. Each year, at the ATE conference, AACC awards approximately 50 scholarships to ATE students to attend the conference. Those selected will receive free registrations and 2 nights of lodging. The project and/or center is responsible for the students' airfare and other respective travel expenses. Each project and/or center may nominate up to 2 students or recent alumni to attend the conference by having them complete and submit the student alumni application. You still have time to nominate a student if you have not yet done so. The deadline for student applications is Wednesday, September 9th. AACC will notify the students selected to attend, and their sponsoring PIs by Friday, September 11th. Student activities include a recognition ceremony, student-led sessions, student showcase, and a student tour of the National Air and Space Museum. Students often have an opportunity to present at conference sessions. In the past, we've had plenary sessions, concurrent sessions, and breakfast roundtables led by students. This year, we will offer students the opportunity to sit front and center at the Thursday morning plenary session, which will feature a panel of ATE faculty and student teams sharing the impact of their ATE program. Students are encouraged to attend this session and will have space reserved in the front rows and have an opportunity to ask questions first for the panelists. In addition, the conference will offer a special student-only session offered on Thursday and repeated on Friday to allow an opportunity for all students attending to talk with an industry leader to learn about the skills needed to be successful in the global workplace, as well as successful interviewing tips and techniques for getting the right job. The conference also gives the student an opportunity to showcase their ATE program. Here are a few pictures of student showcases. I might have jumped one, excuse me. Students are expected to prepare a display related to their program of study and their current work for a student showcase session. Students can select to participate in a showcase session on either Thursday or Friday. I would like to encourage all of you to stop by and visit the student booths. Again, this is the first time that some of these students have been on a plane or traveled out of state, so please be sure to say hello and see their booths while at the showcase. During the conference, students will be recognized by the National Science Foundation for their achievements in STEM at a breakfast held in their honor. PIs are encouraged and more than welcome to attend with their students. AACC will share a complete schedule of student events, a student guide to the ATE conference, and also offers student orientation webinar on September 17th to make sure that all students are aware of conference activities and opportunities. Here's a group photo of students from last year's conference. You see all their happy faces? Now let's take a moment and ask if we have any questions regarding student participation.
Ken, we do have one question. One colleague of ours said he has more than 2 students. Can they all apply? What are the limitations again?
It would be 2. Due to a limited number of student spots and the need to give multiple projects and centers the opportunity to bring students to the conference, we ask that you nominate no more than 2 students to attend.
Okay, so just 2. Now, we all heard you mention that you saved front row seats for the students. That should be interesting because students automatically go to the back, don't they?
Typically, yes, they do, and we try to, try to hide in the crowd or whatnot. No,
right.
We're trying to give them, front and center and have exposure to the conference. So they're going to have a special row designated for them up front.
Ken, when I was going to the student showcases where they give their projects, it's really fascinating talking to them. They're interested. They want you to ask them questions, and I was very impressed by the level of the students that we had there. So I think it's a good opportunity.
The excitement and the student activity is of great pride to a lot of the students, and so we try to showcase to the rest of the attendees that come out, share in the participation, and then encourage them to kind of speak out on all the activities that they've been doing. So,
Ken, there was one more question that came in, but Ellen answered it in the chat window. It says, does the scholarship include travel costs for the students? And she responded that it does cover registration costs and 2 nights lodging, but you got to find somebody else to help out with the travel, right?
Correct, yes. It would be the responsibility of the respective institution or organization to cover the travel costs for the student.
Ken, do you know one time oh, go ahead, Elaine.
Yeah, Mike, I just wanted to chime in and say that students can, depending on the participant support costs that you have in your grant, students can also be considered participants and can be covered by participant support costs.
There might be some travel money in there then. You know, we did one year, Elaine, we approached one of our close industry partners and we explained what was going on here and asked them if they would be willing to fund, pick up part of the cost from the travel, and they did. So that worked too. I guess there's other ways of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, typically when you write your grant, if you have participant support cost and we're not thinking about taking students, that money's already sort of earmarked for something else.
Right.
But in the event that you've got a little bit more money in that category than you may need for what you originally planned for, it's unlike your employees and project staff at the college who are not participants on your grant. You cannot spend
Right.
that money on them.
Right.
Students can be covered under the participant support category. So.
Good point. Let's go forward, folks. Ken, back to you about the important thing of what to wear.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Elaine. Now, in this section, I'd like to address other common conference questions such as conference attire, access to the internet, and additional ATE resources. The conference attire is business casual, and we suggest you dress in layers as the conference rooms can be quite cool. You should also wear comfortable shoes as there is a good deal of walking involved to get to some of the session rooms and exhibit hall. As Ellen mentioned earlier, AACC has negotiated with the Omni to provide a wireless access code for use by our conference participants in the meeting rooms and common areas. AACC will provide this code with your registration materials upon check-in. In addition, the ATE conference participants will receive complimentary wireless access in their sleeping rooms. The code for the sleeping rooms will be provided upon check-in, or you can obtain that information at the registration desk. Now I'm going to turn it back to Elaine, where she'll talk to you about the various resources available within ATE.
Thanks, Ken. We just wanted to take the opportunity to tell you of some of the great resources across the across the ATE program that you'll find very, very beneficial. One of the best things about being at ATE-PI is the extensive resources that have been developed within ATE to help you. I'm going to mention a few of these, and these were all included in this webinar handout, and so you don't need to worry about trying to write all these URLs down. One I want to point out to you, of course, is the Mentor Connect right there. And to give a shout out to those of you in the audience who have been Mentor Connect participants. If you're looking for help with your ATE grant proposal or the next proposal or project implementation, Mentor Connect is the website to check out for that. If you are looking for ideas, your idea shopping for your next grant proposal or proposal partner, you will find information about what ATE projects and centers are doing at these two sites, the ATE Centers website, which tells you about all the funded ATE centers and what they're up to. And then there is an ATE Project Impact website that's got some resources about the types of projects that are being carried out across the ATE program. Another site of interest is the teachingtechnicians.org site. This is your one-stop shop to find out about faculty development opportunities being offered by ATE grantees nationwide. Teaching Technicians has more than 3,000 registered users who have an interest in technician and related STEM education. So if your project includes offering faculty development and you need to get the word out so that people will actually come to the event that you're putting on, this is a great way to get the word out to your target audience. Also, if you're looking for faculty development in any particular discipline or teaching methodologies, then this is a great way to find out what's being offered across the ATE program. And of course, with grant subsidized faculty development, these opportunities are very often free or they're very low cost. Some of them offer stipends or software or equipment to those who participate. So it's great wealth of opportunities for faculty and professional development at that site. ATE TV, this URL here URL here provides amazing high-quality free video vignettes that you can access to help you recruit students and raise awareness of careers in advanced technology. The ATE TV provides a YouTube video network and website that is focused on technician education and ATE enhanced programs across the country. And those videos are all free for download, and you can use them. And ATE Central is another one I'd like to point out, and this is a way to connect to all things ATE. They're just as the name says. They are archiving for the ATE program and are a great way to connect and find resources from all funded projects. A couple of other resources are the High Impact Conference website. Some of you actually went to the High Tech Conference in July in Portland, Oregon. It was fabulous, the biggest one ever, and it occurs every year in July, and the next one is going to be in Pittsburgh, I believe that's right. Isn't that right, Mike? Next year?
Yes, that's correct, Elaine. Pittsburgh, late July 2016.
Yeah. And then AACC on their website at this particular URL has published an NSF Impact publication that they did on behalf of NSF in the recent past. So all of these are just great resources for doing your work now or for preparing for your next proposal. Mike, I think we're going to take some more questions at this point if there are any, and then we'll start looking at some of our deadlines that are coming up.
There is a couple of questions, Elaine, but I'm going to address them to our two colleagues who live in Washington, D.C. Ken, I'll start with you. Is traveling on the metro safe? And you can see a lot of people wonder they might not have experience with that system in D.C.
That's a great question, Mike. Yes, traveling on the Metro Rail system within Washington, D.C. metropolitan area is very safe. I would still try to recommend everybody who has previously attended in D.C. or is new to D.C. to travel in pairs. You can always ask a Metro Rail employee where you're trying to go, and then I would also ask for Metro Rail maps so that you can see the full length of the system and then see the various trains that you can catch.
You know, Ken, I often travel by metro, and it turns out that as you get off the metro stop by the hotel, what is it called? Is it Woolsey Park? Is that it?
Woodley Park, yes.
Woodley, yeah, Woodley Park.
On the red line.
Well, you come out of the stairs there, and there's the hotel, like 100 yards away. So it's really convenient in that sense. Yeah, I get out the National, I go walk in the airport, get on the metro, and come out within 100 yards of the hotel. It's pretty good.
Correct. Yes, it is. And, you know, we've lucked up to have the hotel located right next to the metro stop. And as you said, you would just come out, you'd walk straight down, and it would be on the right-hand side.
I have a question now back to Ellen. Ellen, you mentioned the conference meals that were provided. Are there opportunities around the hotel? You know, sometimes hotels themselves are expensive with their own restaurants, but what about outside the hotel there?
Yes, there's actually, in Woodley Park, there's a good deal of restaurants at various price points that are within walking distance to the Omni Showroom. We provide that information in the conference program itself, or you could certainly pick up a list at the concierge desk at the Omni. And in addition, if you didn't like any of the offerings within walking distance, as Ken and Mike just discussed, the Metro is very close, and you could certainly Metro into DuPont Circle, which is one stop away, or up into Cleveland Park, which is one stop the other direction for another wide range of restaurants and dining options.
Ellen, there's that one place that's called Mediterra. They have $5 martinis. They're pretty good.
Oh, yes, and I will say there are definitely a lot of good happy hour specials. So
right.
For that
Now
Thursday evening, which I think is the only free night you really have, or Friday if you're staying over, definitely check those out.
Good, thank you. And thank you for Ellen for the comment on the spouse activities. I see there is a spouse registration to attend the exhibit hall events. Does that? Oh, it does include the food functions. Good for $150. That's a pretty good deal.
That is a good deal. So yes, it's not the full conference content, but a lot of the times we get spouses that want to see their spouse exhibiting or showcasing, so we offer that opportunity so they can join us in the hall,
Right,
in the
right.
exhibit hall.
All right, colleagues, thank you for all the questions today. Let's see, let me check my list. Good. Let's go ahead and talk about these deadlines just to remind us once more. Go ahead.
Okay. It's of great help to those planning the conference if you are very diligent about adhering to these deadlines. Doing so helps them do the best possible job in facilitating this conference. If you are among the few who receive late award notices, we understand that there's still several pending awards for this year. AACC will be more than happy to help you and assist you after the registration deadline. But that's really designed just for those people who did not realize they were going to have grant awards until after the deadline. If you want to bring students to the conference, the deadline for applications is next Wednesday. That's the first deadline to be really alert to. As has been described, this is a great opportunity to both showcase and reward the best students in your program. I know students from our program have benefited enormously from going. They've just been life-changing events for these young people, and sometimes not so young people in our programs that have just had such limited opportunities to travel in their life. And some who've never been to our nation's capital. It's just a great opportunity. If you want to exhibit this year, the deadline for reserving booth space is Thursday, September 17th. And again, the booth space doesn't come automatically. You have to ask for it. So that's what you do when you reserve your booth space. Very, very important is the cutoff for hotel reservations. That is Thursday, September 24th. The Omni Shoreham is a large hotel. You can tell from the photograph it's actually huge. But it fills up each year. Don't procrastinate. No other hotel in the area will provide the proximity and convenience of being at the Omni. The conference days start early and they run through the evening, so it's especially important to be right there. The conference registration date is also deadline is also September 26th. Even if you have already registered as a PI, you still have time to add people to your team. So you may want to include administrators, industry, or academic partners, or other members of your grant team who will be instrumental in the success of your project. Trust me, bringing others with you is worth the additional expense to your project, and it will build support for your work at your institution. Involving others in the ATEPI conference never fails to foster a better understanding of what it means to have an ATE grant. The more enthusiasm you can generate for your project at home with your partners and your institution administration, the easier it will be for you to achieve your goals. Now, if you need additional information following this webinar, that contact information is on the screen at this time. And with that, Mike, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks very much, Elaine. Now, colleagues online, you know how important it is that the NSF see value in what we're doing, and we're going to ask you to help us with do that. I'm going to launch a survey now. It's just a couple of radial buttons. It's easy to do. So it'll come up on your screen. While it does, we're going to wrap up with some final questions here. So let's see if Mike can do this. He's going to try to launch the survey. Now let's see if it works here. There it is. So now I'm going to click on it. If the survey doesn't come up on your machine, sometimes certain browsers or certain firewall settings will block it. You can find it by going up into the upper right of the screen. You see it there. It says Web Links, and you can click on it yourself to launch it. It'll open up in a different browser window. So let's hold on 1 second and see if I can't get it going myself. There it is. Good. So presenters, please don't answer that survey. Just let it there while we wrap up our final questions. So today it's been very interesting. Certainly a lot of people joined us today, Ellen, Elaine, and Ken, and they stayed on for the entire thing. That's not surprising. I don't mean that. But here's a question for you. What's your favorite place, Ellen, to go to on the mall? Do you think it would be the Smithsonian or air and space, or where do you like to go down in the mall when you go down there?
I actually like to see the monuments by night. It's a very different atmosphere in the evening to see the Vietnam War Memorial, or particularly the Korean. It's night. It's beautiful, and it's actually rather haunting. So those are some of my favorite things. Since maybe Thursday evening, if you get a chance to get down there, it's a wonderful thing to walk along the monuments in the evening. It just gives you a very different perspective.
I agree. Ken, what about you? What do you find is your most, if you have visitors, where do you take them when you down to the mall?
I would pick the places that Ellen mentioned, and I'd also say the National Museum of American History or the National Museum of Natural History. Those are also great locations to see.
Good. Elaine, when you visit from out of town, do you ever have time to go down to the mall?
Oh, not as much time as I would like, but the museums are fabulous. And so when I have an opportunity, I'll try to go to one of the museums. And I love the Native American facility.
Sure.
That building is worth seeing. It's a work of art in itself.
You can tell folks from online, if you haven't had an opportunity to go to DC before, or if you have, of course there's the cool things associated with ATE, but just as a place to visit and to come to, it's just fascinating. I have to agree with Ellen. The first time I saw the Vietnam Memorial, I just wasn't prepared, and I was so impressed with the subtlety and the grace of it. Anyhow, sorry, I don't mean to editorialize, but I think this conference means a lot to all of us. Elaine, you and I think, met there first years ago, 1996. We've been going there since 1996, so this conference means a lot to the community as a whole.
Yeah, you're part of my family at that family reunion.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Well, folks, thank you again for attending today. Most everyone has now clicked on their radio buttons. I'm going to leave the survey up for a couple of minutes, but this officially concludes our webinar for today. Please don't hesitate to contact through that email link or through the conference link. Ellen and Ken are very responsive to any questions that you might have. So thank you again for joining. Ellen, Elaine, and Ken, this will end our webinar officially. I'm just going to turn off the sound system and let the survey sit up there for a couple of minutes and then shut it down. Just as a reminder to everybody, you will automatically get a link for the recording and the PowerPoint. It'll come to your email as a benefit of registering for this webinar. Thanks again, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.